Hi, and welcome to the Man Myth Podcast. Talk about 9 lives. Take it away, Dad.
9 Lives. 9 Lives came to me because it was interesting. I was thinking about how the lack of fear of death doesn't actually mean that you have a love for life or that you're living your best life. So, a cat, supposedly, right? Or the theory is they have 9 lives. So, the first, I would say probably 6 of them, they don't care what happens. Right. Then the 7th one's like, wait a minute, it's getting close now. And then the 8th one,
We got to start.
right. And then the 9th one, I think they would just stop living because they're in fear of the last one. But that's the same. It's kind of a metaphor for people because I was watching somebody the other day in the store, and I don't know how old they were, but it was interesting to see the cautiousness of everything that they did, and
Right.
some of it's fear of things that have happened. Some of it's fear of things that they think will happen, and it brought me to this. In my old practice when I was in Richmond, this lady came in and she was really upset. I was like, "What are you upset about?" She says she just went to her medical doctor, and I said, "What?" That would upset me, but what upset you, right? And she said, he told me to stop riding horses. And I said, she's like 68, right? And I said, why do you say that? And she says, well, I've got osteoporosis and my bones are thin. If I fall off the horse, I may break something and then that might be the end of me. And I was like, wow, that's like a doomsday little thing going on there. And I said, but there's some other bad.
That's one extreme.
Right. That's some bedside manner there. So I said, that's going to be another bad thing I'm going to have to tell you too. And she says, what's that? And I said, I won't be able to see you anymore either. And she goes, what? And I said, well, because I'm sure he told you not to take any more baths because you're more likely to fall in the bath and break something than you are off of a horse. So you won't be bathing anymore. So
You're not coming to see me, Stinky.
Right. But then a smile crept to my face and she says, what are you saying? I said, ride your horse. Don't fear, but they put her right in the fear mode of falling off of her horse. And so even if she rode her horse, she'd be so tense the horse would feel it and then she would probably fall. Right.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. That's when she's going to fall because it's going to be a perfect storm.
And what they don't tell people is almost everybody over 50 can be classified as having some type of level of osteoporosis. So
part of aging, isn't it? Don't your bones your body deteriorates and your bones can get less dense as you get older.
Well, yeah.
But it doesn't mean that if you fall off a horse, you're going to.
Yeah. But your bones have to break down to rebuild. And as we get older, we don't do those motions. Some people don't do the motions that make the bone break down. So then that's why it started. I mean, it's the simple way of looking at it, but that's why they start getting thinner. We don't stress them. And she's like, well, what if I fall off the horse? And I said, well, if you were walking across the road to get your mail and fell, same thing, right? She's ridden horses all of her life, and that's the thing she loved to do. So I think that was one of the things that came up when I was talking about 9 lives, because I just want people to understand, and it isn't just age either. I mean, the way that we're in fear of things. And a lot of it has to do with, in the way I see it is a lot with pharmaceuticals. When you listen to the commercials, right? Because they're going after people to put them on some type of medication, and the diagnoses are ridiculous, right? So a guy one time comes in and he's like, "Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do." And I said, "What do you mean you don't know what you're going to do?" This was the first time I'd heard this. And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he says, "Well, I'm pre-diabetic." And I was like, "What?" And I said, "Everybody that doesn't have diabetes is pre-diabetic."
He's pre-diabetic.
And that's what I told him. I said, "I'm pre-death, but I'm not going to worry about it right now." Right.
I like to consider myself post-birth, but that's fine.
Post-birth, yeah. See, that's the glass half full. So yeah, that's the thing. I think when we listen to things, and then they strike them, or we actually become whatever that fear is. Like, she was not going to ride horses anymore until I said, "Go ride a horse." It's ridiculous. Right. That's what you love to do.
Well, it's like in Harry Potter when Hermione says, "Fear of the name only increases fear of the thing itself," and she's talking about Voldemort because they say he who shall not be named.
Right.
But she's the one that says, doesn't matter what his name is, whether you say it or not, he's still the same person and he's back. Mm-hmm. Like, what do you want us to do? But I think we all, I mean, you have a little bit more of an enlightened way you go about your life, but normal people are all, I mean, we're bombarded with, hey, watch out, this is what's going to get you next.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether it's don't walk in this neighborhood at this time or you'll get mugged, or another person died in a school shooting. Like, and I understand that those things are terrible, but they're also not a reason to not live or to be scared of living. Mm-hmm. And that's, I mean, the media itself is just such a terrible one-sided, like, it doesn't matter what media you like or your politician likes or whoever, they're all exactly the same. They don't care. They're all out for a paycheck. They want the next big scoop story that is a grabby has a grabby title so they can suck you into watching their television show for another day. And all of the I say it to people when I'm talking about the podcast. Good news does not make headlines as fast as bad news does, right? So our podcast, we have to work harder because, yeah, we could get on here and talk about, oh, screw this, fuck that, get the hell out of our face, all this stuff to people with different opinions of ours. And we could do a bunch of clickbait stuff, and I could, and we could really go at it. But that's not what this is about. We're not here to get attention like that. But then you see some of these podcasts, and that's not necessarily what they do, but some of these podcasts, just, you listen to them and you're like, how is this positive, like, helping the world, helping anyone at all? And it's just a sad state that the world's been in now, and we have to deal with all this stuff that even just 20 years ago we didn't have to worry about, like everything just getting force fed to us in our face, because we didn't have social networking. We didn't have, I mean, the internet was pretty young, and if you think about when I graduated high school, like, it was around, but it wasn't like it is today where everybody has it on their cell phone. It's just everybody's so enthralled with everything, and the bad seems to be outweighing the good, and that some people it doesn't affect, but a lot of people it will make them worried about having those same bad things happen in their life, which is going to make them more closed off, more worried about what's going on in their lives.
Yeah, and I think that's we make things like the spectacular or the controversial. There's always. I do a lot of research on a lot of things, but the funny thing is, no matter what it is that I could find on the web now, is I can find agreeing and opposing views. And what they do is they cite different like sources, right? So, but they also, what they do is they take out of the source what they want, and then that's what they say, right? Science, and I don't want to go down the COVID rabbit hole, but science, everything that I learned, pretty much everything I learned in chiropractic college about physiology is different than now, right? So in the 90s, we talked about the Krebs cycle. We did all these. And then now they look at it and they're like, oh, wait, we have more technology. So now we know. So when we talk about, and I found it interesting because, I don't watch too much TV, but I was watching something the other day and I found it was interesting because now on the side effects, they also ask if you've gotten vaccinated or plan to. Tell your doctor. And people, it doesn't click to people. If I take something for a rash, right? There's one of these
Right.
on the TV. And so I looked at it, and blindness is part of the side effect. Well, then you can't see the skin rash. You can still feel it, right? That isn't what fixes the rash, right?
It's half gone.
So I always tell people, if you're gonna watch the news, don't. If you're gonna listen to a pharmaceutical commercial, don't watch it, because there are thousands of hours of research and development on how to get you distracted from what they're saying.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh, for sure. And you can tell because they'll have a pill, like you were just saying, they'll have a pill for upset stomach and painful diarrhea and vomiting and nausea and in some cases death. I'm like, well, I'll just have heartburn. Jesus Christ.
Right.
Like some of I only watch pharmaceutical things like that to watch the end when they list all the side effects. That's my favorite part, because I know that whatever those side effects were, even though no matter how uncommon they are, it's still going to be funny because at least one of them's worse than the condition you're getting the medicine for.
Well, it's true because it's crazy because almost all of them have some, and they trick it into it even more. Like, tell your doctor if you have liver or whatever issues, which means it's hard on your liver. It isn't saying it's a part of the side effect. It's saying that, oh, you already had a bad liver and this might make it worse. No, I don't have a bad liver.
Right.
Right. Don't put it on me.
Right. Yeah.
But
liver or kidney problems, call your doctor.
Right.
That's on almost all of them, I feel like.
If you're bleeding from your eyes or your ears, you may want to call your doctor. But that's the fear, right? That's the ninth life. That's right. They've got us so scared that we're on our last leg of everything.
Right.
And I think I said this, Megan, when she was here, she said something that was so profound to me. And she said, you're only 62. You may have another 30, 40 years. Think about where you were 30, 40 years ago and the time frame that.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
And I was like, that's insane, right?
Meg, did you just say that? Are you sure you're okay? What's going on, Meg?
She's pretty deep, I guess. So, but it was amazing.
I don't know what you're talking about. I think David said that to her. David said on the way there, like, yeah, your dad's only 62. He's got another. Imagine where he was. Oh, Megan's stealing jokes. No.
But it was funny because we were we took the kids to Dinosaur World, right? And
Of course.
she had her first cup of cacao. And I love cacao. It's amazing. But we're driving up and she just opens up like all this stuff about her, because she always talks about the kids or David, but she just started talking about her. We get there. I mean, she's talked the whole way, which is great, right? And I was like, this is amazing. She looks at me, she goes, "You think it was the cacao?" I was like, probably. It opens up the heart. It's an amazing thing. And we'll talk about that because I've got a
it's all fake.
Fake news.
It's all fake. Fake news. I don't know. I've never had it. I'm sure it'll be an experience when I do.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Every time you suck on that water bottle, I got to edit it out. You know that, right? Oh, my goodness. But I think, like me doing stand-up and doing this, I wouldn't say that I don't know what life I would say I'm on, but I mean, I have so much. I just wanted to start doing something that I wanted to do. Like, yeah, I have a good job. I'm happy at my job, but I think that like doing stand-up is something I think that is going to be, it's cathartic for me, but I also think I'm going to be good at it once I get the hang of the flow and everything.
There's no doubt.
That's what, if you talk to anybody, they just say, you got to keep doing it. You got to keep doing it. You got to keep doing it. So it's just, but I think I was scared for so long to like get into that world and try it, that it made it impossible for me to do it because I was so scared. Because everything in my body didn't say, oh, well, what if you're good at it? Or what if you succeed? Or what if you do this? Everything was saying, oh, no, you're going to fail. You're not going to, like, every bad thing you can think of was going through my head. So that was just that's another fear I've conquered. And that's another thing that I'm not letting control my life. I'm taking control of it.
Right. So I think too, is the new job or the job that you enjoy also opens that up. Because
Right.
you're not fatigued and you're not stressed all the time. Not that you don't have difficult work, but it's like you are happier there. And that's the
well, and
go ahead.
Being happy at a job makes the hard days easier.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my job's not easy, but even when I'm having a rough day, I know that it's the outlier. It's not the normal. You know what I mean? It's not the norm of every day. It's when you start having 3-4 bad days a week, that's when it starts getting to be like, okay, something needs to change.
But in that situation, you wouldn't open yourself up to do comedy.
Right.
You would just go into, see what I did?
There's no way. I heard you taking the cap off. You can't drink out of a cup like a normal person.
Well, I just what I had here.
It's fine.
I'm like
oh my gosh.
I'm going the other way. I'm the Benjamin Buttons of the cat lives.
You're gaining lives.
Just going the other way. Yeah, I mean, in your analogy, you would be like from 9 to 8, 7, right? Because you're doing things that you're not in the fear of death of it, right? And I think, but like when I do consulting with people, and they're like, I'm always nervous, I'm always anxious, I don't know what it is. I said, are you watching the news? One of the first questions I asked. Yeah, well, stop. It's not real anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
it's sensationalized, it's dramatized, it's crazy. And then, they'll stop for 3 days and they'll be like, I feel so much better. I'm like, good. 2 or 3 days later, I get a call. Oh man, I'm anxious and depressed again. You been watching the news again? Yeah, I kind of went back. I thought I could handle it.
I can't tell you the last time. And maybe it's because, I mean, I never liked the news anyway. Not really. I was never like one of those people that could just sit down and watch the news. I can't do it. But as the years go on, I'll watch it even less and less and less because, one, most of the things on there don't directly affect me. But they, like you said, they would affect my mood. Like if you're watching the news every night and every other day they're talking about some kid who got shot or something that happened or like something terrible, that affects your chakra, your energy, whatever you call it. That's bringing it down. And I don't need that. I don't need that in my life. Me watching the news is like when you said you didn't want to watch The Dark Knight because of the energy you got from it. That's the energy I get from the news. There's nothing good for you here. Stay away.
Yeah, and I mean, Mike and I were talking about this. He says he was asking me about some show, and I was like, "That's just not my gig." I'm not into shows that do a lot of violence or keep me in the fantasy world. That's where I like. Just keep me in that realm. But I can't remember the name of the movie, but he was talking about it. But he's like, yeah, it's like it's like a lot of anger and that kind of stuff. And that's what people deal with. They deal with this anger that's built up. They deal with this sensationalized everything, right? So, that's just where I am. That's not a thing I'm going to watch, but I do know people do it because I work with them all the time. And I'm like, just stop watching the news. And I think it's different too, because if you like the old newspapers, people used to read them. And then they could pull their, like what it was out of it, right? For them.
Right.
Instead of it being directed or staged so that, everything.
Well, everything's twisted to fit a narrative, I feel like.
Right.
And I say everything is I know there's some stories that aren't generalized or aren't, what did I just say? Sensationalized or twisted. You know what I mean? But it's just too much for me to handle. The closest thing I get to the news is like we'll watch the Phillies games, and in between innings they'll have like tonight on 10 o'clock news, and then they show like a little snippet. That's the closest thing. Okay, I got probably all the facts out of it in that 30 seconds you just showed me. The rest of it's going to be helicopter footage and you guys gabbing about how terrible things are. I don't give a shit anymore. I don't care.
Or who's to blame for it. Right?
Yeah.
And, it's, I keep going back to I keep waiting for them to blame, because they're running out of people that are alive. They're going to start blaming the old dead presidents. So, this was Lincoln's fault, this whole economy thing, when he was in whatever, right? And I'm like, oh, Lord. But it's interesting to see. But that's when I saw that lady with all the things that she was doing that seemed so fearful. Even her steps were short. And it wasn't like it's a disease process, because I know those. But it was just like the caution of taking small steps and leaning on things and not like, it was just there was no movement. It was all short steps forward. Take some side steps, right? Go to a yoga class. There's yoga for everybody, right? Even I think it was a
goat yoga
Diamond,
now. Where you
Dallas Page, is that his?
He does. He has his own yoga thing. Yep.
Yep.
Butterbean the boxer Butterbean takes his workout and yoga classes, and he lost, I think, something like 200 pounds or something like that. So,
That's
I mean,
cool.
I'm not saying that if you take yoga, you're going to lose weight, but it's all these, like we say, it's all these tools. It's another tool to help you cleanse your body and get bad energy out.
Yeah, and that's the tools are we can talk about them. Like a lot of times when I'm working with people is I do the same thing. I give them tools to use, or I give them things that they can do. And then they'll text me or they'll call me and they say, "Can you help me with this?" And I'm like, "You can do it. Try it first, right? And then if you need help, then I'll help you if it's something else." And most of the time they're right in it. They're just like, "Okay, that's cool," or "Yeah, it worked." And I'm like, "Awesome." But that's pulling people out of the fear of the current narrative of everything. That's why I was surprised when the RFK Jr. talked about taking all the drug ads off TV, and I was like,
Yeah, that's a big thing.
that would get my vote. Just that one thing. I'd be like, all right, because it solves so many other things, right? But there's a lot of stuff that I like the way, like they were trying to bait him into something. He's like, I'm not going to put somebody down. He says, I'm going to tell you what I do or what I'm feeling or what I'm doing. And, I think too many of our politicians are living in their ninth life, but also think they're invincible, if that makes sense.
Oh, for sure. I don't think they believe in 9 lives. I think they just think that they're, like you said, untouchable. Nothing can happen to them. And did you hear about that billionaire? I forget what his name was, but he was talking about how he could fix the deficit in 5 minutes. And the interviewer goes, "How could you fix the deficit in 5 minutes?" He goes, "All you have to do is pass a legislation that if there's a deficit in the country, none of the sitting officials are eligible for re-election." He goes, "Watch how fast they fix that deficit." Sure. He goes, "Watch how fast they fix it." And it's true, because they don't have any. We vote these people in. I mean, people have been voting Joe Biden in since 1933, and like they just sit there and they make this outlandish amount of money for doing this job, and they don't care about the people that they're representing. They care about the people who lobbied and helped them get into this power that they're backed by them. And I'm sick of us acting like this isn't how it is, because it's exactly how it is. Every one of these guys, Republican or Democrat, is backed by some big piece of shit company that has money to throw away and doesn't care. They just want their assets protected. That's why businesses don't have to pay any taxes. Yeah, because these big billionaires have put these little nuggets in pockets and said, "Hey, since we're considered a corporation, don't let us pay taxes."
Right. Since we're going to be putting so much money into your economy. But that's a very good point too, because people need to understand the words. Right? So if they say the national deficit, they don't mean the national debt. Totally different things. The deficit is spending less than what you did last year, which with COVID was easy to do the years afterward, right? Because there was so much going out. When you stop giving it out, then the deficit goes down. So it is like when it first came out about the shot, and they said efficacy. Efficacy doesn't mean effectiveness. Right. So listen to the words that they're using, because they will manipulate every time. Efficacy means that
national debt is what I meant, right?
No, it could have been deficit, but I'm just saying people get those two confused.
I think it was debt, because it was meant we owed money. So
Well,
National
yeah, I mean
Debt.
that, and
Oh,
that's
okay.
that's not going to fix in 5 minutes, but that is a good way to. That would be a great way to do it. You'd have some
It was
motivation,
just
right?
I don't think he really I don't think he really meant 5 minutes, but he's just saying you want to light a fire under their asses. This is
Right,
how you do it.
right.
But
Make
anyway,
them
okay,
accountable.
efficacy. My bad.
But that's what they first came out, and they were like, the efficacy of this is 90, and it's not. It wasn't even 90% in efficacy, unless you put it into statistics are just fun to play with. If you ever taken a statistics class, you can make it say anything. You can make something look different by the size of the graph, or there's all kinds of things that you can do.
Right.
Right. And that's what people get. I had the conversation with somebody that got really heated with me about it and about effectiveness and efficacy. And they said, well, why would they even put that up there if that's what they were talking about? It doesn't make any sense. And I said, it's at your fingertips, right? All you have to do is look it up on the phone.
Exactly. But it makes complete sense because they know that people aren't going to look it up on their phone. People are going to be like, oh, efficacy, that must mean efficiency. That must mean it works this such amount of time.
Right.
You and I both know that that's what they thought and that's their little workaround.
That's what the little discussion I had was. And then they looked it up on the phone and like, oh, you're right. And I'm like, thanks.
Oh, shit, Doc.
Really?
So we got on this subject, but the funny thing is I watched a video today, and it was of some senator from some state, I forget. Anyway, so he said, we sat here and shot down 3 whatever they vote on yesterday. One was to help drug-free mothers, and it was $200,000 is how much that would cost. They said, we don't have the money to do that. One was bulletproof vests for state troopers. That was going to be $100,000. They said, we can't do that. Then they said, oh, and the third one is redoing the food kitchens in the state so that they can help more families that are in need of food.
Mm-hmm.
And that was going to be $1 million. But you said no to all 3 of those. But then today you passed a thing saying that the people who are buying private jets don't have to pay sales tax on the jet. And that bill is costing us $1.7 million. He says if you had denied that bill and passed the other 3 bills, not only would we have been able to pay for them, but we would have had $400,000 extra to pay for other programs that we could expand on.
Mm-hmm.
But no, because you guys worried about your friends that have private jets and not the average Joe that needs help during. I mean, these are not easy times right now. But it's just, and I don't like getting political, but that's kind of where we were today. And that's fine. It doesn't matter. But just watching how corrupt our system is and how people just seem to be okay with it. So, like you see people with just say, oh, well, if that's how it works, then change the laws. Well, that's not. When you try to, the people that are making the laws are have so much money put in their pockets, it doesn't matter.
Well, and they get the support through the smallest things, the little tidbits of things that they send to people or they do for people. And then the small group makes the noise, they get some support, or they get sensationalized like we talked about. So, and I think we're not really talking like back and forth politics. We're just talking about total corruption.
Yeah. I want to point something out right now. I'm not talking about a Republican or a Democrat. I'm talking about both those motherfuckers, and I don't like either one of them. Libertarians can suck a dick too. I don't care. You guys are all weird. I don't know how you like something so much, a political party, that you're willing to storm the Capitol or whatever Biden supporters do, cry. I don't know. but it's just ridiculous anymore. I've never seen anything like this. When I was in the Navy, you had literally half the people voted for Obama, half the people voted for whoever Obama went up against. I forget. But none of them were fighting each other because they voted for the different person. I've never seen it like this. And it's only happened in the last 4 years. And I'm not saying it's anybody's fault, but just calm down. None of the politicians give two shits about you. None of them care. They count their money and they go to bed. They do not think about you. They don't care if you voted for them, and they don't care what you think of them. They just are.
Yeah,
Joe Biden doesn't even know where he is.
A lot of times, it's they're pushing for the 1%, and that's the thing to flip them off the 50, 49 to 51, 48 to 52. It's not really. There's certain people set on certain things, and it's like the same thing we talk about time and time again. Even in politics, there's probably 10 things that split everybody. There's thousands and thousands of things that should bring us together.
That should bring them together.
That we could be focusing on, that we could be negotiating with, whatever it is. And, it's like when they say united we stand, divided we fall. Well, currently we're the divided states of America. It's not the United States.
Oh, for sure.
So
for sure.
But that brings that same fear into people. And some of it's a lack of knowledge, some of it's just being blissful and not even in the stage of ignorance, like not knowing what the word means when they're saying something. Look it up. If you don't know what the word means, don't think it means the thing that it sounds like.
The whole dictionary is in a little box that can fit in your hand.
Right.
It's this big. Every word ever conceived right here. You don't have to go buy a book.
No.
It's in the book. This is a little book. It's all the books. This is all the books.
Well, most of the books. Some of the books aren't in there. That's
what book's not in here?
When we were getting ready to...
Oh, look at that ash.
Cute. When we were getting ready
you can't
to...
see like half of her.
Move and stuff. And I was packing up and I was like, why am I packing all this stuff? I have it's right here. Right? Books and stuff like that. Then I got to realize I like the books. I like opening them up. I like reading them. I like hearing the pages, feeling it. But that's old school. That's just that. I like to have that tangible, that tactile sensation of doing it.
And I for sure understand that.
But what tickles me is when Kindle makes the page noise. Have you ever heard that?
No, I don't think I have.
They have the
when
if you're flipping pages, it makes
sounds
them
like the pages flipping.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. But anyway, yeah. So just don't get into fear or come out of it and say, I'm going to make up my own mind. I'm going to do the things I want to do. I'm going to support the people that I want to support. I'm going to ride my horse if I want to ride my horse. Right. It all comes back to the keeping yourself empowered. And I think that's one of the things that I've really learned over the last 12 or 15 years. And it's not like you have to do everything by yourself. It's like you just can control, have some boundaries. If you feel sad, talk to somebody. Because the next time they're sad, they may talk to you. And it just may be the right thing on both sides.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what wrapping things up like that. That's perfect. Because that's what we want. We want fear is such a powerful motivator, but it's also a great hindrance. Because like you said, fear of dying it'll hinder you in life because, like you said, with her riding horses, if you take riding horses and put dying instead, that doctor said, basically, if you ride the horse, you're going to die, right?
And that's really what he was saying.
Like you're gonna fall off. Yeah.
Break a hip and then it's all over.
But like you said, but then it was a whole domino effect of her, like you said, taking short steps, leaning on things, doing this, doing that. It affected everything she did just from that one little sentence from one person. Imagine what could happen if we all build each other up. And so instead of being fearful, we have this bravery of life where we know there's more to life than just existing. There's living to be done. And that's what we need to do. We need to be living instead of just existing.
Agreed. No matter how many lives you have.
As soon as you said 9 lives, I was just thinking of who was it? Michelle Pfeiffer that plays Catwoman.
Oh, yeah.
And she keeps getting shot by somebody. I think it's Penguin shoots her or something. And she's like, 8, 7, 6, 5. And like, I was like, why is that like one of the worst Batman movies ever coming to my head? But it was just fun. It was just a funny little thing.
That is funny. All right, let's wrap it up, huh?
Yeah. Remember,
you are not broken, and you're not fearful,
and you're not afraid.
You're not afraid.
And remember, everybody, we love each and every one of you.
Have an amazing week. We might be starting these a couple times. So keep an eye out.
With me.
And share these.
I don't know if we'll be
This is going to shock Bobby. Share these damn podcasts with somebody.
Oh, damn.
At least.
We're getting there.
Snap.
We're getting there.
No, I just share them. Even though a lot of times we don't make sense, we're going to make sense to somebody. There may be somebody you know, or maybe somebody that just starts. We get a lot of great comments from the people that do listen. We have loyal listeners, but we need to get the word out more. And you need to, these people need to talk to their friends about it, not just our podcast, but what we bring up, and check in and do those things, because it's getting scary. People are dying left and right. I think Riley's lost 2 in the last 6 months.
I mean, I just lost one, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. I mean, it's just happening all too often. And it's never fun. But remember, we love you, and talk to each other.
All right. Love you, Bob.
Love you.